teammates. They're going to be taking monthly finals number 2.
With all that action, this is where East Asia stands. With Reject, Zeta Division, and Crazy Raccoon within 11 points of each other, this monthly finals will decide who goes to the Brawl Cup. It's all high stakes here, so watch out for that. Moving on to EMEA, an interesting turn of events would be an understatement. In the quarterfinals, while Humble won Reverso Gaming and Foot Esports won Experian NXT both at 3-0, Reply Totem lost to Eclipse Our Esport, and SK Gaming lost to Team Electros both at 2-3. Eclipse Our Esport went on to 3-0 Humble, a result no one was expecting, but was well-deserved as Eclipse Our Esport played exceptionally well.
ECP make it happen, and they're going to the finals.
At the other end of the semifinals, Team Electros won 3-1 against Foot Esports. Yet another unexpected but brilliant performance from Team Electros.
And Team Electros took advantage. 2 world champions have now fallen.
With the clash of the underdogs happening in the grand final, there could only be one. And with a sweeping victory at the hands of Eclipse Our Esport, they have shown that they are a force to be reckoned with.
And Eclipse Our Esports have done it!
Yet another region with an extremely tight margin of points between SK Gaming, Eclipse Our Esport, Humble, Team Electros, and Foot Esports. This monthly finals will be a high-stakes event to determine which team will make it to the Brawl Cup. The South America region has shown time and time again the volatility that we've come to know and love, as the teams rumbled it out once more for a higher standing. BC Gaming SA won Olimpo Squad 3-2. Loud won Algain Segura 3-0. SK Kalalis SA won Zorita Gang 3-1, and Casa Brawl won Legion Otaku 3-2. Going into the semifinals, Loud was poised to win, but fell short after a 2-3 loss to BC Gaming SA.
BC Gaming, the spins and pins are out. They've done it. They're going on to the grand final.
SK Kalalis SA, however, held their own against February monthly finals champion Casa Brawl, putting up a stunning 3-1 victory.
But to no avail, the reign of terror is over in South America. After 1 year wait, we will have a new Grand Finals champion in our month number 2.
Yet another duel of the underdogs in the Grand Finals, but SK Kalalis SA came out on top with a 3-1 victory.
And SK Kalalis, folks, have done it. Your monthly champions here in SA.
The South American whirlwind rages on, as any of the 8 teams can still grab that spot in the Brawl Cup. Last but not least, we have North America, where the Tribe chants still echo. Tribe Gaming had a rocky start, winning 3-2 against Eternal. Code OG defeated Pioneers 3-1. BC Gaming 3-0 to STMN. And Space Station Gaming won 3-1 against Elevate. Tribe Gaming rode their victory momentum into the semifinals and took a clean sweep against Code OG.
But the boys in blue have done it, moving on to yet another semifinal.
BC Gaming also had a 3-0 of their own against Space Station Gaming.
Pushes in and BC Gaming established themselves. There's a top 2 in North America.
With Tribe revisiting the grand final, all eyes were on BC Gaming to dethrone them. They fought valiantly, but fell short, losing to Tribe Gaming 1-3.
Here's RBM, gonna wrap onto that safe, and that's that.
With 2 monthly final wins under their belt, Tribe Gaming has secured their spot in the Brawl Cup. BC Gaming sits comfortably at 2nd place, but there's a slim chance that their spot might be taken by Elevate, Pioneers, Code OG, or Space Station Gaming. And that has been the recap for the March monthly final. With high-stakes matches happening in East Asia and EMEA, and the whirlwind that is South America, which teams do you think will make it to the Brawl Cup? Stay tuned to find out.
We're back, better than ever for another year of the Brawl Stars Championship. Teams from around the world will fight for a chance of becoming the Brawl Stars World Champions and their share of the $2 million prize pool. With a new and improved format, there's no telling what might happen this year.
His gadget won't be able to get the kill, but SK Gaming.
Follow the journey along this spring split. Stars will be born, legends will rise, and the next champion will be crowned. Who will take home the glory of it all? Their story starts right here. Let's get ready to brawl!
Welcome to the April monthly finals for East Asia. It's the third month already and the race to the Brawl Cup is heating up. With extra slots for the World Finals and LCQ on the line, every single match counts today. I hope you're ready. I know I am. And so are the very talented men beside me today. It's Trev, Kenny and Ark, benched for now, but we'll swap him in for match number 2. Now, Trev, we're in the last monthly final before the Brawl Cup. How much does that shift the mindset for teams coming into today?
I mean, I think it shifts it quite a lot, to be honest with you. I don't know whether teams are going to take risks or be quite reserved in their gameplay because, as you say, so much is at stake, and we've got 4 teams, I believe, that can make the Brawl Cup, so much to play for.
I do agree with that. They really need to bring their A game today. Which team do you think is under the most pressure, though, Kenny?
I think it's got to be Reject right now. Back-to-back monthly finals. They've gotten 1 game in those grand finals. And that's a tough thing to swallow. That's a lot of a mental hurdle to go into and try and claim your Brawl Cup spot. It's a big month for them.
We want to start with the leaderboard here to kick things off. How is it looking like, Trev?
Yeah, well, as Kenny said, Reject's sitting on top. They've got to 2 grand finals, but actually haven't got a win yet. So, as well as they're doing, they could be doing that a little bit better if they got a little bit more composure in the later rounds. But Zeta Division are on 1-1-1, only 1 point behind Reject, and then Crazy Raccoon 10 behind them in 3rd place. Navi with 82 in 4th, and they're the 4 teams who are going to be competing for this Brawl Cup spot today, because Rival Esports, Frenzy Gaming, Niwa, and Effort Result, although they're in the top 8, they're not quite close enough to get within this Brawl Cup range.
That right-hand side, just looking to play spoiler here today. Coming into this month, I was a big proponent of Rival Esports, loved what I was seeing in practices, but a last-second roster swap has me a little bit nervous, so I think it's going to be up to these 4 teams on the left-hand side to try and claim a grand finals.
Keep in mind here also that East Asia only has 1 single slot for the Brawl Cup, but we do have some great news for every team going to Dallas, Trev.
Yeah, we've added an extra LCQ spot for whoever wins that match will have a 3rd/4th playoff match, and whoever wins it gets an LCQ spot for their region, and that is along with the LCQ spot for 2nd and the World Finals spot for 1st as well. So much to play for at Dallas at the Brawl Cup, so every team's going to be wanting to get there.
Outside of just the money on the line, the pressure, the experience at LAN, I feel like there's going to be a lot of regional pride coming into this, and especially when there's a region like this where there's only 1 team representing you, you're really trying to parade your champion, cheer them on, grab your region that extra World Final slot, that extra LCQ slot, because that makes a huge difference for the postseason.
I think it's an even tougher game here over in East Asia, because there's 4 teams that could still make it, and there's just 1 slot to take.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's these 4 teams, isn't it? Reject, Zeta, Crazy Raccoon, and Navi, who are trying to get to the Brawl Cup, as we've mentioned. And all day long, we'll be bringing this graphic up. We'll be crossing teams out. We'll be crowning one who will be going. But all 4 have a chance and are going to be playing their absolute hearts out today.
I think the mentality just has to be win it all, go to Dallas. You don't want to settle for 2nd. There's some teams like Navi here who have a little more of win conditions. They need things to fall in their favor. But for the other 3, if they're winning, they're booking a ticket.
And as you just mentioned, Kenny, nobody wants to settle for just 2nd, but that happens so often already to Reject. They do have a pretty good matchup here in their very first match of the day, Trev. Since Genji, I feel like we've seen them for the very first time today in a monthly final.
Yeah, we are, and that's the thing, we got here on a bit of a technicality as well. So Reject in quite a good position to move on to the semi-finals, and further than that as well, as Zeta Division and Crazy Raccoon both looming in that bottom half of the bracket, who are the 2nd and 3rd teams. But we'll have Rival Esports versus Navi in that 2nd game, then Zeta Division versus Niwa, and we'll round out the quarterfinals when we get down to that Crazy Raccoon versus Frenzy Gaming match.
That quarterfinals number 2 between Navi and Rival, I think, is the closest. I do feel like this is a pretty straightforward quarterfinals in terms of who the favorites are. In that first one, it's the number 1 seed versus not even a top 8 team. So I do think Gingy are definitely at a deficit there.
We do have some very close matches, some that might be not as close. Well, in any case, I handed in my predictions, you guys, and it really seems like you just played copycat in this one.
I mean, possibly so, but I think they're all pretty clean cut for this month, to be honest with you, the quarterfinals. As Kenny said, that 2nd one is probably the closest, but with Rival Esports having that little bit of a roster change, it shakes things up a little in terms of how good the team's going to be, how good the synergy will be after a short period of time playing with a new player. So we have all gone for the same in terms of quarterfinals, but I think the only real shake-up could be in that quarter 2.
Caster Hive Mind very real for this one. I just think with Reject, Zeta Division, Crazy Raccoon, all fighting for Brawl Cup spots, this is an important month. I think they're going to be very dialed. I was a big fan coming of Rival in this month, but this week they had a roster change. I don't know how it's going to do. It's a top 4 team in Navi, so it's just really hard for me to bet against that.
Well, you guys at home watching, make sure to watch over at the event site, event.brawlstars.com, to earn Pro Pass XP if you're still missing some on that reward track, to also earn the pin in the end through MVP votings and trivia questions. You can earn those points to move on and, again, even get some more ranks in, maybe. And the trivia question is pretty hard, not even Trev can answer that. But first, head into the Brawl Esports fan art contest now. You were able to draw your favorite moments and your favorite players from all of the Brawl Esports that you've witnessed so far to win gems, and we are showing right now the 4 most liked here on Broadcast.
Yeah, well, we're going to have obviously a vote for 2 of them over this weekend. I must say, I'm liking that Gum in Sky one, but yeah, it's 4 incredible pieces of art here. Obviously, go over and vote on the X, Brawl_esports. Get your votes in. Make sure to get that done, because you need to reward these incredible artists.
Yeah, go for voting and go between these 2 to start us out this weekend. Personally, I'm leaning a little bit towards that right-hand side, a little reminiscent of last month, a great moment. Shade being undefeated for Zeta Division, a huge part of their victory. So a little bit biased in the storyline sense, but obviously both of these are just incredible.
I'm just so stunned every single time when I see how many talents we have in the Brawl community. It's so beautiful to see. Make sure to get your votes in over on our socials, as Trev already mentioned. For each weekend of the BSC monthly finals, we'll have a vote between 2 of those top 4 favorites. Now, we're going to head right into the action, boys. Our first matchup, we already teased it. It's going to be Reject versus Gen G.
I mean, it's a big game for both of these teams, especially Gen G really need to get off the mark. They haven't had any monthly finals yet, or I should say they haven't attended any monthly finals, never mind got any. Reject, they've managed to get to both of the grand finals. So we've got a bit of a first place versus, you know, huge up-and-comer, because Gen G need to make their mark here.
Definitely a tough matchup here for Gen G. Uphill battle for Reject, and I think this is going to be favorites on that left-hand side. They're #1 seed for a reason.
We had a little chat with Melty from Reject as well. Let's hear it.
リジェクトの強みは、みんな何でも使えてキャラ幅が広いところです。今改善しているところは、ピックの幅を広げることですね。使えるキャラは多いんですけど、その使ってるキャラが、ちょっと幅が狭いなと思ってるんで、最近いろんなキャラを試そうとしています。決勝戦で負けてしまった理由は、普段の練習の中で決勝戦の練習だけ、あまりしていなかったところなので、これからはそこを改善していこうと思いました。今回は、優勝できると思っています。誰よりも自信があります。
It really is a very interesting spot that team is in right now. Reject, their current leaderboard placement is #1, but they only ever placed 2nd in the last 2 monthly finals, Trev.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a tough one for them. They are sitting in 1st place, so they're still looking pretty good in the current leaderboard standings. But yeah, you know, when they're facing off against the big teams, the Crazy Raccoons, the Zeta Divisions, who you can't deny are the 2 best teams in this region, they seem to be running into some big problems.
Now, Kenny, we have a little checklist prepared here. What needs to happen in order for Reject to make it to the Brawl Cup in Dallas?
It looks like 3 simple steps, right? Win quarterfinal, win semifinals, win monthly finals, and obviously since Reject have the points advantage, they would automatically go into that Brawl Cup. But ultimately, I think you just got to keep your head on the ball game, really lock in this month, and it seems like in that interview, that's exactly what's happening. They're trying different brawlers. They're scrimming this grand finals. They're trying to envision and live out a big-time win, and it would come at no better of a time than trying to book a ticket to that Brawl Cup.
Well, some say that they have a pretty easy way into the semifinals already. I wouldn't say so. Gen G, they're here to show what's up. They're finally in the monthly finals. Today's the day where they can show us all why they are within this org.
Yeah, the thing is, I wouldn't say easy in terms of quarterfinals. Maybe easiest of the quarterfinals, but still will be a big, big task for Reject to get through. Genji, you know, they've got a very recognizable face in Moding, who's been around the block in Brawl esports. He's been such a long standing player, 2019 World Finalist. So he's the one you've kind of got to look out for, I feel.
Definitely a roster with a lot to prove. And I think in fairness, practice has not necessarily shown their best stuff. A lot of these teams have scrimmed their hearts out. Reject, Navi, Crazy Raccoon, Zeta, no matter how you spin it, I think Genji are an underdog. And if they won this, I think it would be the biggest upset of the year.
It is only one of two all-Korean teams. I'm really looking forward to see what they can bring to the game. Maybe they have another idea. We've seen a lot of shade last month of this region. Maybe they have some more underdog brawlers that can come into draft as well. Well, the stage is set, Trev. We also have our maps ready now.
Yeah, Hideout, Last Stop, Bells Rock, Ring of Fire, and Triple Dribble will be the maps we're playing on. I'm kind of thinking it's going to be cut shorter than maybe the fifth. I feel like it's kind of maybe definitely we won't see that, but fourth is a possibility. I am thinking probably a sweep to Reject, though. They've got to be the heavy favourites coming into this one. We'll probably see that the community predictions very, very shortly. But yeah, I think Reject are the safe bet here.
Definitely the safe bet, but Genji have a lot to prove. I mean, this is a massive organization entering Brawl, their first monthly finals. I'm sure the expectations are still high for these guys, but nonetheless, the community is thoroughly riding with Reject like us.
Heading into the draft now, the very first of the day. We're starting off with Reject versus Genji Esports. As mentioned last month, this region has us shown how strong Shade really is. Maybe he has just been a little overlooked though. Maybe the teams weren't ready to face off against him, didn't really know how to deal with him. And such a brawler we have coming into this month's monthly finals as well. Lumi is finally in play in competition, but so far, we've only ever seen her banned out. Today is just the same story once again, Trev. Double ban Lumi.
Yeah, although it's, you know, available to be played, I'm not sure we're really going to see too much of it. We might see a sprinkle here and there, but I would imagine it's going to be banned out for the most part. This time it is obviously double banned out, as you said. Kit and Pipe are going to be banned out as well by Reject, and Genji get rid of the Melody and the Max, and we see a Bell as the first one.
This doesn't even look to be a traditional map for a brawler like Lumi, but I just think Lumi is in such a strong spot. I don't expect her to be played a ton today, similar to you two. Kit gonna be showing up at the ban stage. I feel like that's always a safe bet, so we're gonna go with a very typical brawler, one of the most played brawlers last month, a very successful one. RT making a little bit of a rise, I would say, in this region. In practices, this is a consistent face that shows up. It's one last month I feel like we really didn't see too much, but he's definitely bounced back now, at least in scrims.
Yeah, the RT, fairly decent, I will say. It's, you know, pretty good on this map when you're kind of getting into the late stages and you get to drop the legs, play a bit of defense, play a bit of offense if that's necessary as well. So it's one of those more versatile brawlers, sharpshooter, short range. You get a bit of a mix as well, be able to fend off against some of the aggro that can be brought in on a map like Hideout. They're going to go with the Carl, kind of the go-to brawler at the moment. I will say that heat ejector has been so dirty since this gadget change.
Carl's one of those brawlers right now that I feel like applies to so many different maps and modes. And pros now at this point, I think he's going to show up a ton in the play stage. I think he's even going to show up a little bit in that ban stage, but he's just somebody that's so good because of the heat ejector that you said. Gene, another one of those brawlers. If I'm a free-to-play player out there, Gene, Carl, these are a couple brawlers that consistently can show up. I think Gene is just so pesky with the poke damage. You have the magic hand if you need an explosive player to turn a game around. I feel like there's a lot to love right now about Gene. Somebody who's just always kind of around, but I think a little bit extra in this current meta. Brock for some wall break here, don't mind that at all. So we got a little bit of sharpshooter, a little bit of utility with Gene. I don't mind this comp for Reject at all.
Yeah, it's pretty good for Rejects. I think Genji have got a pretty solid composition overall so far. As you said, the Carl is just kind of one of the go-tos, same with the Gene. Brock's going to be very good for that wall break and are going to be able to all outrange the Carl, so that's a pretty good sign. He looked very excited about me having to get this Angela pick, so maybe this is something they're pretty confident on, a bit of a comfort pick possibly. And yeah, both comps looking pretty strong to me.
I'm curious what gadget this Brock actually ends up running, and the only reason I say that is just because of the aggression that Carl has. I wonder if they go for that jump just to avoid that. You still get that wall break out of the super. Angelo's a 6 pick though. Can't be upset, right? I feel like it's still a phenomenal brawler. A lot to love about this guy. Sharpshooter, quick, has a good super, great gadget with that cooldown change as well. The piercing through the wall is really difficult to deal with. I think there's a couple brawlers in the game with gadgets like that that make it tough. Reject need to take care of business here though. Brawl Cup on the line. line, and checklist number 1 is taking care of this quarterfinals.
Yeah, well, Blue Star goes the way of Gen G to start with, so it will be Reject pushing into them. That's going to be quite the difficult task, and actually a better thing for Carl as well. You need the other team to be pushing into you at this stage because you've got no supercharge and not really the most mobility either, but doing a good job so far. A few wall breaks coming down from Reject, but still Gen G hold the lead.
Everybody getting set up here. Nest egg on this left-hand side in a little long range. Meanwhile, Gene just chipping away at this right-hand end. Mingyu running the RT here, and now the middle of this map blowing up just a little bit more. Carl still holding back, and that's where things can get a little more difficult for Carl, I would say. To the casual player, doesn't have the necessarily long range of Bell, of Brock, has to kind of rely on these walls a little bit, so with more open space, I do think it gets a little trickier.
Melty pull in hand, so that's something they've got to be a bit cautious of. Angelo forced to jump all the way to the left-hand side, and the Vengeful Spirits will make a couple of connections, but nothing too meaningful at the moment. Shu not having the best of times, and occasionally pinches in onto this Carl. If done at the right time, Moding will be in a tough position. Now the Gadget as well, not going to make any connections for Batman, but Shu gaining some really good ground, and a great push from Reject, but still no kill.
Gen G really milking this clock right now. A lot of pressure, but they're starting to encroach, move up this map a little bit. Batman with a nice dodge there, and they really need to keep it going. They just haven't seemed to find a way to get that one frag. They've set up a lot of nest eggs on this left-hand side. They've got Melty with a super in the back pocket. All it takes is one kill here to swing this.
Melty's still got the pull in hand, and that's got to be the changing thing. And there's the pull, and he can't get a super off in time. And there's the hypercharge sweep from Batman as well, wanting to extend the lead. Bono low, and Moding is going to go down too. Now Gen G need to push forwards. Mingyu not in a position to be able to do so, though, and Bono slowed. Will be able to jump away, but doesn't have time to do that. So continues this push forwards, retreats a bit, and now the timer just hit 0, and Reject take game number 1.
Fantastic play out of Melty there. Nails the pull, little tag team to get that kill, and all they had to do is back away. That's playing the clock really well. Gen G secure that blue star really early on. They're holding on to the lead, but with so much pressure, with being pushed into their spawn, really difficult to make a heads-up play. So I think that's just well executed out of Reject, and it looked pretty simple for them. I don't think they were really struggling throughout that.
Yeah, it was good. They were just calm, composed, no rush. They didn't overextend to try and get a kill. They just waited for the opportune moment and took it pretty well. Melty really required that pull and hit it perfectly.
A little swapping up here too. We're going to go RT on this left-hand side. Angelo now dealing with Gene. Batman assisting Melty on the right-hand side as Musical Lanes goes down. Trying to move their way up this map, and everybody just setting up. Every shot they can grab's a little bit closer to a super, so even if they're not securing kills now, hopefully they're gaining that utility to do so later.
Gadget there from Batman and Melty as well. Breaks up some of the grass, and the Vengeful Spirits follow up, but don't really find anything. Maybe just kept a couple of those players low in Mingyu and Bono, but Moding still playing the left-hand side, and the RT has now kind of rotated to the mid, allowing Moding to play off in this matchup. But it's not the most favorable when played at range, so he's going to have a bit of a tough time. And Melty pull in hand again. Mingyu almost got caught out by it. Vengeful Spirits will reset his healing once more and gain some more ground for Reject.
Batman's now broken down both these L-shaped walls. Just going to cater a little better towards these sharpshooters. Mingyu doesn't mind this. Bell, Brock, all in favor. Angelo just so pushed back right now. Is forced to pop that super, and you hate to see that for him. Definitely would rather have that later on. They're just not finding these tags. No poison damage trickling in. Melty just able to spam these gadgets. Shu secures one on the left-hand in. And now Reject have a little bit earlier lead than we saw in game number 1.
Yeah, 30 seconds for Gen G to try and make a comeback, and now Reject can just play this kind of game at the mid or go back into their spawn and play it a bit safer. Mingyu gonna trip a nest egg there and go down as Shu gets his second kill of the game. Melty pull in hand on the right hand side, so it's going to be tough for them to push. Batman ready to kind of help out if need be. Vengeful Spirits comes out, Bono falls low, another nest egg popped, and that's going to be a flurry of shots from Shu as he picks up his third. Moding goes in, but Melty will pick that at 1 up as well, and Bono almost going to be falling behind with 124 as Reject take the game and the set pretty convincingly.
Oh, and they dropped the Gen G pin. The disrespect. Unbelievable. They just seem comfortable, confident. Smile on Melty's face, not overly worried. You never want to see your opponent cracking a smile and joking around. That's just a toughie.
Yeah, to be fair, I don't know if maybe that kind of smile or the Gen G pin was maybe, you know, a show of respect or a bit of a show of bad faith. It could be taken either way, depend. But usually this kind of East Asia region does quite a good job of respecting their opponents.
let's believe in the good faith here. They probably just wanted to respect their opponents. I felt like Gen G did a pretty good job. They got the blue star, especially in that second round. They looked like they had it all under control. They just had to wait it out for a tiny bit longer. But every single time Reject just turned the steering wheel around and was able to win it in the end very convincingly. As you said, Trev, it was a 2-0, a pretty clean game here. Is that correct what I'm seeing here, Carl, without a single damage percentage?
I honestly think it's a possibility. Maybe some things are a little bit wrong though, because I feel like it was maybe Shu getting the majority of the kills here, and just not reflecting in the kills and stars. But definitely some really nice stuff from the side of Reject, and a pretty sad performance from Moding if this is the case. And honestly, it's probably not far off. I didn't see him with a single super, and possibly not even a shot.
PR department for Moding is scrambling right now. True or false does not matter. You get the 0-0, the screenshots come out. That is a toughie for our boy.
Well, maybe it was just a little mistake in the API, but I feel like maybe it was also just reflected the very last game. Could be that he just picked up that blue star and then they kind of lean back. Because usually if you have the blue star in bounty, if you have the lead overall anyway, you can just kind of rest in the back and let your opponents come towards you, so you can just charge your super. In the end, Reject turned things around, and yeah, taking this 2-0. Like we expected, kinda, but I still believe that Gen G can turn things around here, Kenny.
Yeah, I really feel like Reject were pretty convincing with that. I mean, a lot of donuts going down for that right-hand in, not a ton of kills, not a lot of pressure. I just never really felt like there was a moment where I believed. And I think Gen G's got to make me believe. This is their first monthly finals. They're going against this #1 seed. I don't expect them to win, but I'd love to see them put up a fight. And I think if Reject looks comfortable here, just kind of keeps advancing, going through the motions and aren't challenged, then it's going to set them up pretty well to keep going here and execute for a good result. I just think on last stop here, I want to see something different. Gen G had a solid draft. I don't think it was in the strategy. I just think the mechanics were clearly siding with Reject there.
I mean, I kind of just have to say it did seem like Gen G were kind of semi in the game, at least. Like, they may have not got kills, but they weren't, you know, completely decimated. It was, you know, it was a couple of little mess ups here and there, stepping on maybe too many nest eggs on the left-hand side in that kind of second game, but they didn't seem completely out of it. We do have the draft coming in now as well, so it's going to be the Squeak, the Kit, and the Ollie banned out from Reject. Gen G going to get rid of the Melody again, along with the Stu and the Lumi once more. Janet going to be a first pick. Janet seemed to fall off a little bit after some of those hypercharge changes. Still a capable brawler, but I'm not sure of its first pick for me.
Wow, only one Lumi ban. Who would have thought here? We already have our two gem carriers here. On one side, it's a Janet that can just fly out of harm's way whenever she wants to, whenever she needs to. And then the Jean, we already seen Multi doing so great on a brawler. Let's see if Moding, if he sticks to that brawler, can do just as well. We had a lot of Melody, Ollie, Mr. P here last month. You feel like those brawlers could still come in here. Melody banned out, obviously, but is Ollie, Mr. P, are those still valid options here in this meta, Kenny?
I think Mr. P could be, just because we see the Gene. I definitely don't think as much so as last month, but Ollie is still towards the top of my tier list for sure. Obviously in the ban stage here as well, but nonetheless, I do think it's somebody I'm going to be keeping my eye on today, maybe a little more on that ban stage side, but I definitely think a worthwhile brawler. I don't mind seeing this Bell pick. I think you get the bounce shot with the Gene, so if Gene's clustered up with teammates using the heals, it's going to be a little bit tougher now that you have that bounce shot going off. You also have the spawner with Lola to bounce off, and Charlie is a brawler that, one of the ones I've really wanted to keep my eye on. I think you're going to be surprised at the folks at home of how much we see this brawler today. It's been scrimmed a ton, and I do think it fits in really well into this meta. It does counter a lot of these single shot brawlers with the spawners and the spiderlings, and then also the Cocoon does really well in the tanks. Charlie's definitely on the rise.
Yeah, I'm not sure I can kind of just glaze over the fact that we did just see a bird on the player cam as well from Batman sitting on his knee, so let's hope that's not too much of a distraction, but I had to touch on that very quickly. And the Max will come in to round out this Gen G esports composition. So honestly, again, I don't mind either of the compositions. Gen G maybe need to go for something like this, the Max Gene, and can turn around the game on a bit of a whim when they're in a tough position and going to be down, more than likely against Reject. So having that turnaround capability is a huge thing.
Bell's also a brawler that I'm a pretty big fan of in general. I think once you gain control, having all those nest eggs down, you saw it in that previous set, really hard to step onto enemy territory. Max can be playing a lane here alongside Gene, and already low HP. Batman gets one, Moding forced away, and now Mingyu has to deal with a 2v1. Disastrous start here for Gen G.
Yeah, tough pinch for Mingyu off the start there. Moding already pushed back, and Shu, 4 gems in hand. Drop the base can be placed on this right-hand side to reset Mingyu's healing, and he's not that low, but can't really contest too much. Shu just going to kind of pivot over to the left-hand side, go back to the mid, and another gadget used by Batman. Push coming in again, and Batman will pick it up once more. 6 gems to 0, and this is all reject.
Oh, and the long-range Kaku, Batman from across the map gets one, and now Melty and Shu can just line up shots. Charlie hasn't been around for a little bit, but I really do think she has a place in this meta, and you see it for reasons like that. Easy tags for pro players, counters a lot of these brawlers. Single-shot brawlers don't like her. Tanks don't like her. I think that's a reason you're seeing her on maps like Pit Stop, where there's a little bit of everything. This map, no exception.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what to say about this game, to be honest with you. A lot hasn't really happened other than Reject just completely dominating. Mingyu gets marked up by Shu as he comes out of the spawn over that launch pad, and the drop the base will finish him off. Nestek's doing God's work here so much. There was even a double connection a bit earlier on in the game, but Reject, again, honestly, not sure they even got a kill.
That was the most convincing game for sure. I mean, honestly, just off the rip, they drop a kill on this left-hand side and just march up. In your casual games at home, if you drop a player, you can get by a little bit. But at a professional level, if you're dropping a player within the first 10 seconds of your lane, especially on a very open map like this, Charlie got free positioning. She now gets to move up to this top left-hand side, use these walls, and there's no wall break, maybe outside of a gene pull here, and she just has control. She was dropping cocoons, spiderlings, what have you, and just causing a problem, already landing another one as well. And this bounce shot gonna go back and forth, and now Mingyu has to take refuge behind this wall and just buy time. Already, Reject have control of the map and 4 gems in their pocket.
Yeah, I mean, even with the lane swap and kind of the surprise on their side, still didn't go their way, and Batman pretty much pulled off a 2v1 there. Bono getting tapped up pretty hard, and they're pretty much having to go 3-on-1 now, and it's still not working. Bono getting it surely taken down here by the hatchlings, but it's not going to happen. He managed to get the first kill. I'm pretty sure that Genji have got in this set. Drop the base will come down, and Bono should fall. I mean, you has super in the mid, and Moding pivoting to the right-hand side, but Alola with a pet's not really going to do too much against Sabelle.
Trav even dropped the base, is getting kills here. I mean, everybody is just falling apart on this Genji side. There's certainly an underdog here, but this is just domination. Reject looking like they're in great form right now.
Yeah, Melty will go in for that gem and pick it up and fly away. Gets out of harm's way at that as well. Mark goes on to Moding on the right-hand side, gets a beautiful blind connection there, and Mingyu, the only one be able to do anything here with the time remaining, and even then, Bono can't get up, and Mingyu kind of not pushing too much. That's going to be 10 gems to 0, and Reject take the set in just about as convincing fashion as the first.
When I said that this would be the greatest upset of the year so far, I really did mean it. Gen.G, a huge organization, obviously a lot of love, a lot of loyalty across esports, but right now this team just hasn't looked like it can match up with the top 8 in the region. Obviously, getting here by technicality, like you pointed out earlier, and you know, you got to build that experience somehow. You got to build that confidence, but that set kind of shows just the gap between, say, our number 1, number 2, number 3 team. I feel like there's a cluster at the top, and then this team that's just outside that top 8.
I mean, maybe they're just collecting some experience now to then come back even stronger next month. You know, we're still out and about, and I'm looking forward to seeing them again in the monthly final. Yes, this set was maybe even more dominating. I have to say, I really like the comp from Reject as well. After all, Gen.G does have a pretty tough opponent here. Reject did make it into the finals twice already, second place twice, so maybe they could have had it a little easier as well. I feel like for the next set now, Bells Rock, they need a very surprising comp like the Shade that we've seen last month. Zeta Division did say that they just kind of surprised the whole region with that pick. Nobody really knew how to deal with it. Maybe they just need that surprise factor, otherwise it seems like they can't win.
Yeah, I mean, in need of some surprises, but even if they bring them out, I feel like they still don't really have a chance here. I'm not saying that in a bad way. Gen.G, they just got some work to do. Reject, they are our number 1 seed. We expect them to come into this one and win, but even I didn't expect it to be in this fashion. Reject just seem absolutely on top of the world right now, and Gen.G, I feel like maybe they've got kind of 1 kill almost across 2 entire sets now, and it's just not the gameplay, the Brawl styles we want to be seeing.
2 kills from Bell in the previous set was enough to double Gen G. I mean, that's a huge statement to me. That's the lowest amount of kills on the team, and still more than the entire other team combined. But to Sunny's point, give them credit where credit's due. I mean, this is definitely the best month that they've had so far. They did make it here, regardless of how they got here. They're taking their opportunity, trying to take advantage, and you got to build those building blocks somehow. I mean, it starts now, getting a little bit better every month, getting some experience, showing yourself against Reject, working out the nerves, a lot of things. There's so much going through players' heads outside of just the mechanics, the draft, how you do it. A bunch of people are watching. I mean, we have a big fan base here for Brawl Stars. It's a lot of pressure for anybody.
A lot of pressure, and I really feel like today is going to help them to perform even better in the future. So we're looking forward to that. For now, they're still not out though. They still have one more set to play, and if they win it, we even see a bit more of this match. So let's see if they can turn things around, if they at least manage to take one set of Reject here, Trev. Now, what do you feel like? Bells Rock, we have a lot of throwers here. Grom did receive a hybrid charge, didn't really make him top of the meta though. I still feel like Juju, Tick are just going to be your best throwers for a map like this.
Yeah, I mean, even like the Juju, Tick, Sprout, still probably all going to be better than the Grom at this point. And bans are in. We have the Kit banned out, the Brock banned out, Ollie banned out from Reject. And then over the other side, Lumi banned again, Angelo and the Grey as well. Grey, great brawler on this map. We're going to see a Gene come down first. It's something they used in the first set, and it worked pretty well for them. So why not give them the try?
Knockout and Bounty, Jean's just a no-brainer for me right now. I think the gadget spam with her evil spirits, and I think for him, it's just a really nice brawler overall. I think he's in a good place. I think a little bit better than, say, last month. And then, like we saw in Gym Grab there, too, I think it's definitely a valuable shout as well. RT once again showing up here. Like I mentioned before, Knockout, Bounty, this is another brawler that, particularly this region, has really swung back into. So last month, kind of disappeared, now back in action a little bit more. Gus has been stable, though. I think Gus is still in a great spot. Long range, shield for the teammates. Last second, you can get those cookie popper gadgets going off, a little extra heals. Gus is just a jack of all trades.
Yeah, I mean, good composition so far for Gen G. The Gus, the RT, both very good picks, great shouts, but yeah, Reject just kind of flying at the moment. I feel like maybe draft isn't really even going to affect them that much. Obviously, if they pick something terrible, then yes, it will, but I feel like they can have a pretty mediocre draft and still do pretty well overall in the gameplay. So Tick going to be coming in as the thrower of choice. Pretty good from Reject again. Another solid pick, but yeah, I mean, we mentioned before on the Tick, Juju, Sprout, the throwers that can really excel on this map.
I think a key here, too, is the ban stage when it comes to Tick. There's no Brock, no Gray, so some of your common wall break factors are now eliminated. So Tick probably going to be able to sustain himself a little bit better. They're grabbing Bell here. Bell is just a solid brawler. This is 3 for 3, I believe, now that we're seeing Bell come out. It's just somebody that's always a top 15 brawler, but I think particularly in the meta right now, at least at a professional level, it's one of those things, if you don't really know what to draft, Bell's probably fine. Probably not losing you a set. I think it's just a very good brawler overall between the hypercharge, the nest eggs, you name it. The bounce shot comes into play, too. I really like this overall. I mean, once again, we've got our sharpshooter, our thrower, and Gene, who's a little bit of everything. So another well-rounded comp for Reject, no complaints.
Yeah, really nice stuff for Reject here, and through comes the Sprout, as expected, a thrower for the side of Gen G as well. Going to be pretty severely outranged by Tick here, I feel, but does have a bit more HP, a bit more beefy. So I don't mind that either. Both comps pretty decent, and yeah, as you said, Bell, just one of those brawlers. It's never going to be bad for you. Completely fine against the RT. The Gus has the range to be able to compete with them, and also it's just the nest eggs have been a real thorn in the side of Gen G.
Once they gain control, they just keep having these next eggs piles up, and in rounds that can certainly apply. Maybe they get a little fun with it and go for the bounce shot. I think in the credit for Sprout on that right-hand side, a little bit higher of a skill ceiling. I think Tick's a little bit easier to manage. You just kind of chip away, lob up some shots, hope they walk into it. But if the Sprout can pop up, I do think it's a valuable pick for him.
I don't mind it at all. Has to be able to do a Bato Man, and at the moment he's just kind of being pinned back by the continuous shots. Gonna have to eat one to be able to start to make a move, but eats a couple more afterwards and not getting the most movement. But Gen G still competing in the mid with Reject at the moment.
Everybody just trying to charge up their utility, and there's the Electro Shock. The bounce shot coming out of Bell on that left-hand side, so that's going to be the gadget of choice there. Little rotation. Moding now taking the mid as Bono tries to get to this left-hand side. And like you said, Tick just outranging him, even if it's only 700, 800 damage at a time. Nonetheless, it's still getting that free supercharge. And towards this in-game, when that fog's closing in, when there's a little bit tighter quarters, that becomes so valuable for them.
Yeah, and this is the thing, the Sprout has to stay on top of the tick as well. You know, he can change lanes all he wants, but Batman's going to be able to pinch a lot better. Great shots being thrown down. Tickhead really didn't find too much, but Bono is very low. Batman forced to use that last hurrah. Melty very low as well, but keeping Mingyu just the same. Moding almost falling down. Melty goes for the pull to enforce that kill. Mingyu should be able to win this one out. Batman throwing a super in the mid, but not going to be able to get the job done as Mingyu does just survive. And Genji, first signs of life.
That first tick super coming out of Batman, I think was maybe a little preemptive. It did give them space, but that's what I was talking about. Once Bono gets his super, now they've got a cutoff point. Melty was forced to use a super, did grab the kill, didn't grab them around. Shu hit a nasty bounce shot there to help get one as well, but just a little bit better play from Genji Esports. I really like that. Some signs of life finally showing.
Batman being pushed back by Moding now as Bono rotates through to the mid, tries to get a little bit of a surprise, but by this time, Batman's already backed up all the way, and Shu has a super available, wants to try and mark someone up, and obviously being marked will help Batman be able to get those pinches a lot better. Melty and Mingyu kind of just going toe-to-toe and playing at range on the right-hand side.
Yeah, they've just been sticking around in that right-hand end. Meanwhile, it's just a little bit of back and forth. Bell trying to take on Gus. Sprout clearly wanting to move in, and this is going to be great positioning for them. Now a hypercharge available as well. A cutoff there. Batman forced away, and Moding can hold down the line. They drop a super here, kind of forced to get aggressive. Sprout able to clean up there, breaks the walls a little bit, and cuts off Shu entirely. Difficult for Melty. Super goes down. Shu uses one of his own. Batman, Gadget forces them back. Half HP for both Genji members. It's a 3v2 situation, and they're just fighting the clock. This is tough positioning, a forced hypercharge. Honestly, a pretty good break for Genji, all things considered. So this is going to be tied up here in game number 1.
Yeah, I mean, considering all three of them are still alive, having to use the hypercharge to get round the wall and out the gas is definitely not what he will have wanted to do. Could have been better used, especially on a map like this in this coming round. But at least Reject get to stay in it and don't get sent to the next game being down. Batman throws an earlier super this time and got it a lot quicker. Genji forced so far back. Bounce is going to be there, and Moding almost falling down, kept low by the Gene, and Batman only requires one hit, and Shu will pinch that down.
A lot of confidence coming out in round number 3 here. Reject now with the numbers advantage. Bono no super, and Melty still holding one of his own. This is great stuff. All they have to do is make one good tag find, one kill, and it's pretty difficult for either of these two brawlers to take on a 1v3 or a 1v2 of that sort.
Mingyu so low now as well, being pinched down by the tick, almost falls, and Batman will just throw a super directly onto Bono. Pull comes in, Melty will get the kill, and Shu will clean up the left. Reject heading to match point.
Certainly the best showing we've seen from Genji. I think that was a much more impressive set, but that round number 3, I mean, Reject just put pedal to the metal, really aggressed them early on, and despite having to maybe burn some utility a little earlier than they would have wanted to, like that Gene hypercharge, they're still able to frag out. They grab a kill really early on, and you see the difference maker that is, especially in knockout, whether you're a casual player or a professional player. A 3v2 is nearly impossible for these guys just because the skill is so high.
Bono being pushed out now, and getting some good shots in from Batman and Shu pinching there. Mingyu in a very good position. Bounce shot comes out with the reverse polarity, but Shu can't find anything with it, and that's been a pretty common trend at the moment. Hasn't got much out of that gadget.
Bono in a solid spot. Batman still battling on this left-hand in. Moding trying to move forward in the middle. The indestructible walls, the bounce shot barely missing from Shu. He's marked up, moved back, and now Melty just spamming a gadget, hoping for the best. Moding may be aggressing a little bit, but clearly pressure is on. Genji in a great spot here to try and take another round.
A pull there for Melty, but Mingyu does have the super and not enough DPS really to deal with him if they do pull him in without a mark. So Melty choosing to wait a little bit longer. Now the pull comes in once he's low, gets that, and Batman has a super, the same with Shu. Super gets thrown down, and Moding wastes a couple of ammo there, which means Melty can swoop in and get that kill. Bono places the super, should probably gadget to get it back, but actually just gets the super back regardless. And Bono will fall down now, and that's going to be one round needed for Reject to take it all.
Credit to Sprout. I mean, having 2 walls down at once certainly shows how many tags he's getting here. Really close call. I loved the pull from Melty, just having the game knowledge that even though RT can drop the static, they do enough damage before he necessarily lands. Their mid-pull landing those shots, and they get a perfect execution there. Really well played. So now they're going to rotate. RT left-hand side, a little bit of wall break to do that tick super. So now they're going to have a little bit of an opening. The sharpshooter is going to much more love this left-hand side, whereas the right has just a smidge more walls.
Well, There's a reverse polarity actually getting a connection once for Shu, and now he has the hypercharge available. Surprising to see him not just pop it and go for Mingyu here, but Bono's going to use one of his own. Now all three members of Reject kind of clump together, and hypercharges start to come down. First one is going to be the tick for that side. Melty goes for the pull. Shu will mark that up and get them down before he can even place those legs. And now Melty comes in with the hypercharge, wants to try and push Bono on this right-hand side, but not really too much need for over-aggression, and Moding forced to use the super, goes down, just Bono alive, and this should be a Reject win if I've ever seen one.
Step one should be complete here. Bono, the last member remaining. Gen G's opening monthly finals will be cut short here. It's going to be a 3-0 sweep as Reject take care of business.
Really, really nice stuff from Reject. So good. Just seemed so calm, so composed. Didn't come into this one overly confident. Got the job done and got the win on the board, which means the semi-finals are awaiting them, and they're one step closer to the well, Brawl Cup, I guess, as well as the Grand Finals.
I mean, if we remember that checklist, they did the first one now. They also need to make it into the semis, then into the grand finals, and it would be best if they also won them, because if CR or Zeta Division win them, it's still over for Reject. But congrats to them. They did make that very first step towards Brawl Cup, towards Dallas, and yeah, congrats to them. Commiserations also to Gen G. I really feel like we had some great drawings from them. We had a decent draft, I have to say here. Yes, I agree. Take with a bit more range. He looked very oppressive here. Better Man just had the better thrower here, and he also just shut down that Sprout completely. With the other two, it was kind of the same. Multi again on that Gene as well. Just an absolute menace.
Great gameplay across the board from Reject. 5-4-5, wonderful team performance, and yeah, Batman very impressive. We did see Bono have some great moments. Had one time where he had two supers down on the map and was very impressive at certain moments, but you know, Moding Mingyu down the sides, 0 and 1, didn't really get the same oppression that the lanes of that Reject side did.
Our prediction is looking pretty good so far, guys. For everybody watching, by the way, also head over to our event site to advance in the Pro Pass and earn a pin. When you watch on the event site, you can get those XP and points towards the reward track as well. So make sure to do that. Now, let's have a look here at the bracket, Kenny. Where are we standing so far?
Reject get a nice win there, a little 3-0, and now we move on to Navi versus Rival Esports, and I think this is one of the bigger question marks that I have coming into this month for this region. Navi are a team that have been pretty solid, but just that. They haven't necessarily shown that they can compete with the Zeta Divisions, the Crazy Raccoons, the Rejects of this world, and now Rival Esports are going to be a good challenge for them. They had a roster swap, so definitely a little hesitant to necessarily pick Rival Esports, but in practices, they've looked really solid.
We're gonna head to that just in a second. The next match on the board. First, we wanna announce our MVP of the match that we just watched, and it's no one other than the Gene that we just mentioned twice. He was on the brawler and he hit every single pull trap.
Yeah, played very well all the way throughout that series, and it kind of was one of the main reasons that they managed to get that convincing 3-0 win. Some great gameplay all the way around and all the way through from Reject.
Felt like a lot of pulls onto RT in general, whether there was set 1, set 3, just some really good mechanics. I mean, that looks really easy, but in real time, if you're playing Gene, you know how hard those max range pulls can sometimes be. So credit to Melty, one of the better players in this region, been one of the more fun ones to watch in the player camps this year, and I'm looking forward to seeing him in the semifinals later today.
Have to agree, and I want to see more of that parrot as well, to be honest with you, along the way from the Reject side. So that was honestly my highlight of the player cams. I know Reject do a lot on theirs, but yeah, it's gonna be mine.
Yeah, and Kenny didn't even notice it. He was too locked in on the route already. That guy's too locked in on his job. I don't think you can be too locked in though, so it's all good. As Kenny already mentioned, we're gonna head into our next match. Match number 2 is gonna be Navi versus Rival. You have to wait a little bit though. We're heading into a very quick break.
年の2月のプロス録画。はい。今年の2月ちょっと待って。わかんないです。ガジェットで自分を強化して、最近スキンをもらった。ジュジュ。むずくないですか？バーリーですね。ほんまに誰？バーリーじゃないな。1600ダメですね。投げですもんね。ジュジュかい。22年。はい。ジャネット。オッケーオッケーオッケー。ハイパーレア。グロム。ハイパーレアのアサシン。エドガー。燃えるダメージが与える。ほんまにわからへん。どうしよう。ストゥー。いや、違うな、絶対。これ当たりっすかチャーリー。4000ポイント。めっちゃ強い。ウルトでも、通常攻撃でも、何でもいいから、最大は4000と。めっちゃ強いね、4000は。長距離で、4000ダメージ与えます。思いつかないかもしれないです。もう待ってくれよ、マジで。わぁ、なんかおったな。
Welcome back to the April monthly finals. Unfortunately, we had to say goodbye to Trav, but thankfully, Ark is here to help us with that loss.
Yeah, I mean, watching from the sidelines, never an easy thing, is it? I mean, congratulations to Gen G. Definitely a tough matchup, no doubt about that, being the bottom seed versus the top seed. But, you know, on to the next game, of course. Navi versus Brawl was one that I'm very excited for. Probably the closest one, potentially, of this quarterfinal stages. So, very keen to see this one go down.
Navi and Rival, one I've had my eye on, and especially before roster changes came through. Rival Esports were one that I was kind of looking at to play spoiler in this month in general. I think this is a team that's practiced really well, but now that they've obviously had a little bit of a change, curious to see how Navi handles this.
Me as well. I think Rival Esports, you know, with that sort of technicality with the roster switch up, the substitution coming in, got to take that into consideration here big time. I think Navi as well, they've got a good amount of momentum, and I think my sort of chips are on their side here today.
Coming into today, we talked about Brawl Cup. The race is heating up now. Only 4 teams can still make it into it from this region. We only have 1 slot to give away, and we already have shown you the little checklist for reject. Now, for Navi, here, Kenny, I feel like it's pretty unlikely they can still make it, but they can. What does have to happen in order for them to make it?
A lot more, obviously, than some of these other teams, and that's just due to the fact that they haven't necessarily had grand finals showings or even a grand finals victory, of course. You see at the very bottom there, it says win the monthly finals, but along the way, they can't necessarily fully control their own destiny. Sure, they can knock teams out in the semifinals, they can get a win here, but nonetheless, they kind of need a couple things to bounce their way. So unlike Crazy Raccoon, Zeta Division, Reject, where it's kind of win and in, this is win, plus we have some other options that need to come through.
So it really looks like they have to give it their all, and they also have to have their fingers crossed so that, for example, CR or Zeta Division lose in the quarterfinals already. It's not only in their hands, but they still have to give it their all to have a little chance at it, at least. On the other side, we have a pretty fierce rival, though. It's Rival Esports, and they have made it very, very close against some other big teams. So I do feel like they have a chance to beat even Navi today.
I think so too. I mean, when you just look at the players, it's still 3 very solid roster members. Naipishu jumping in here from Effort Result, which is a team that unfortunately missed out this month, but nonetheless, I do think they have a chance at this.
Now, Ark, as mentioned, they had some pretty close results from matches against the top teams in this region. Talk about it.
Yeah, this is the thing for me that we've got to consider here as well, because, you know, going back to February against Reject, that was a double match point in this qualifying stages, and a double match point in March in those qualifying stages versus Crazy Raccoon. These are not small teams, it must be mentioned. You know, Zeta Division in April as well in that qualifying stages, that was a 2-3 loss. And again, to Reject in the March monthly finals on the 2-3 scoreline in the semi-finals. They are on the cusp of greatness, and that's why it's a little bit disappointing for me this month to see that kind of substitution potentially play a factor here, really, because it could have been really that kind of progression towards greatness.
I really feel like they have what it takes to beat a team finally. They just finally need to come out of that 3-2 loss spirit, as you want to say so. Now, the stage is set once again. All we need is our maps.
Yeah, we've got Safe Zone here to kick us off too, and I'm kind of curious to see how this goes down for this month. There's a few brawlers that I kind of have my eye on for this region as a whole. Squeak being one of them that's kind of shown up as a little bit of surprise here. We've still got our Flare of Aggression coming in. Daryl shows up here a ton. Melody, a brawler that I love seeing here. So I still think there's a lot to juggle. Last month, it kind of felt like we had a few brawlers that were at the tippy top, and then there was everybody else. But I feel like this month, it's a little bit more widespread, and there are a lot more options.
Quite surprised by the poll, to be completely honest, because 89% to Navi is such a favorite here in that respect. Considering that I think many wouldn't have known about the roster change-up that Rival Esports have got to be going in with here today, so it's quite surprising to see, honestly.
I mean, after all, we do have Navi with one of the biggest community behind them, so that makes a lot of sense. I do think it's a bit closer though, this match here. Heading into draft now, the very first set between those two rivals here. And Kenny, in the last round, we had a lot of Bell. Reject picked her up 3 times in a row. I do feel like she would also be quite strong in safe zone.
Certainly an option here in safe zone. I mean, long range is definitely something that these players are going to be looking towards, but like we kind of mentioned before, Carl is somebody that's just so dependable right now. Never really a bad option. There's the Bell, and then there's the Daryl that I mentioned. So we're kind of on the money here so far. This is very normal, I would say, for our current meta. Bell is somebody that we have yet to see not be played, and Daryl on this map has a little bit of extra leg room because he can dive over that water. When you activate that super, you get a little extra distance with that. If you time it just perfectly, does a ton of high safe damage. I think up close into somebody like Carl can definitely be awesome, and if he uses his super, he can disrupt Carl. So I think there's a lot to love about that Daryl pick. We just have to kind of watch out for these hard tank counters. The good news is Cordelius, Lou, and Charlie were the 3 rival esports bans, so Navi just going to claim their tank early.
Charlie is the ban though. I mean, we've really kind of at that stage with Charlie. It's kind of screaming out to me Chuck. I mean, there's 2 big heavy counters, the Charlie and the Cordelius, the Chuck pick. And I think that Navi not even deterred by that as a prospect. A little bit scary for me, honestly. I'm actually preferring a lot of what Rival Esports have got. I think the Carl is in such a fantastic place. Sorry, they've gone with the Piper on this side. And the Lily as well, we've got to be very cautious of in Heist for sure. But it's kind of surprising that for Rival Esports to have banned out those counters and not actually pick the Chuck up. Are they kind of a bit too cautious around what was already picked up here by Navi in that regard? I'm not too sure. But certainly Lily has been a problem child against pretty much every region in Heist. It's kind of interesting to see that Brawl really find its home. Colette going to be coming in, and what a time it is for 2025 to see Colette as the final pick in Heist. Normally was the first pick brawler, often banned in these scenarios as well. And coming in as the final brawler of this draft, and pretty balanced, I would say. I really think Carl is in a fantastic spot though, especially with the heat ejector gadgets. That amount of damage on the safe is gnarly. I mean, we're kind of seeing that much more than Flying Hook these days as well. So, I mean, this is one instance where I could see that gadget playing a role, to be honest. To get onto the safe very quickly, to have the pickaxe bounce, back and forth against the wall, can be an incredible amount of damage here. I'm kind of feeling that both drafts are relatively even here.
I think some solid ones all around. There's some matchups on paper I think that work out better for Rival, but then Daryl's going to be really good into all 3 of these brawlers. Terry now diving forward, going to be getting 1480 apiece for all those shots, but a Choppy on the other end. Ryohi chipping away, and that's where Colette can shine. You mentioned it. It's surprising to me as well to see her this late. Not only is she going to be a tank counter here against somebody like Lily, but she is lethal on that high safe.
Just a menace, realistically, there with the Vanish gadget just constantly going in and out of the round, but what's an unfortunate position to do so there, straight onto a nest egg and into the arms there of Navi. A solid defense is now Ryohi, then rolling straight onto the safe, utilizing that river middle there as well to extend the range. As Terry goes on the aggressive here, gets a little bit of damage onto the safe, but most importantly, snuck in that bottom left-hand side is going to be a problem that both Chappy and Kuru have got to take care of.
If a Choppy didn't clean up as quickly as he did, that could have gotten out of hand rather quickly. And now a Choppy has a super of his own. Easy 10% there, but the invisibility coming through. A nest egg being trapped down, and Naipishu dodges this. Oh, steps right back into it. He's going for the kill, but a Choppy takes care of him. It's just a little bit of damage for Ryohi's time, but Rival are now pushed back on their spawn side.
Hypercharge pops. Not really landing the shots as Chippy goes creeping forwards there with the hypercharge, but shut down in just the nick of time. Really rolling in, forces Mameshi there to take to the skies and stays there in play. Pushed back now by the Lily as Terry's being a menace in this bottom left-hand side as well. Down to 370 HP, but surviving the Vanish gadget again for Lily's going to land straight onto a Chappy, and he gets the kill. Kuru fighting back, has the hypercharge potentially here as well. Opens up the right-hand side. In fact, it's the team wipe for Navi.
Oh, it was looking so good for Rival, down to 3%. They just need a couple bounce shots, and a Choppy releases the super easy up and down to get there. I was real nervous for him, to be honest with you, Ark. When we saw that hypercharge get eradicated immediately, I thought that's a lot of damage they just gave up. They managed to hold strong on defense. A lot of close calls there with Colette and Lily, so I think that's a matchup that certainly played into Navi's favor, and then they turned right back around. They got the high safe damage they needed.
The Pishu as well is very dangerous on this Lily pick, considering that he is the substitution for this Rival Esports roster here today. I think he's doing a wonderful job so far. Both rolling in on each side, the Daryl going in onto the save for Navi, the Carl going in there for Rival. The defense is there though, as Rival do stay strong, just 15% damage, not the end of the world here. Just to the 9% there achieved by Rival Esports. Just Pishu and Mameshi then giving themselves a footing in this mid. To be very cautious on their aggression with that nest egg placement. Bang into the middle there by Kuru. I quite like that positioning.
Naipishu just playing games with this enemy side, waiting to pop that gadget, and now he finally does. He's moving to this left-hand side, though, in the grass. He's trying to get sneaky with it. Kuru finds a kill on Terry. Now Naipishu revealed, marked up. A dive forward from a Choppy. Not enough, though. Doesn't go quite up and down. They have to pin him. This is a good job, though. They buy a little more time, and that's a couple instances now where Rival have been on the other end, and it's Carl or Lily who are just giving themselves a little extra ground, a little extra legwork, so they're not necessarily pinned all the way back in spawn. Now they've got Terry on this right-hand side available. Naipishu moving forward, but Ryohi just has so much space to work with those supers. A good one out of Piper just to try and push him back, but Ryohi popping off, hypercharge going down, Mameshi falls, Kuru popping one of his own and cleaning up here. Navi taking our opening set.
Very methodical there. I loved that aggressive play towards the end. Some nice down rolls, gets the job done. For Navi, a lot to be done there, and again, as we already mentioned coming to this game, a lot's depend upon happening elsewhere in the bracket, and two teams that have got to make the grand finals being Frenzy, and that's two teams that for me have never got beyond the quarterfinal stages. Frenzy and Niwa, they are fingers crossed that they're going to be able to achieve something, but hey, that's the first step towards just getting a solid monthly finals in the pocket.
That is very true, Ark. I feel like for me, I was just looking at the two long-range snipers in mid, really. Mameshi tapped on that Piper. He had super fun. Like, he was just spinning around. It really seemed like he had the time of his life, even though they lost in the end, unfortunately. And then Kuro on the Bell as well, just tapping away. And Ark made a pretty good point there. I think it could have looked very differently, this match, if only Rival picked that chalk. After banning Cordelius and Charlie, that was the first thing that came to my mind as well.
So weird, honestly, and one that Navi didn't choose to pick either, despite there being, I don't really feel like the comp was too scary to play into with the chuck. They chose to go for it, but clearly Navi had a game plan and wanted to kind of see it through, and I mean, fair play to them, it worked. They didn't need the chuck in that regard, but yeah, just really targeted bans that seemed really kind of catered towards a particular brawler, but this didn't kind of go for it. Very odd to see that kind of happen, especially in a mode like Heist, where it's predominantly his best game mode.
I feel like picking Lily's no accident, and when I see those bans as well, I think if there's a time, like you mentioned, Chuck is a great shout, but to be honest with you, those are all tank counters as well. I think that's something you're going to see commonly as well. Charlie being in the ban stage does surprise me, but I have so many times in my notes where I've been watching these scrims from this month, and these teams are picking Charlie so much, particularly in this region, and I think it's just such a good matchup into so many different brawlers right now. I mentioned it a few times, but the Cocoon and the single shot brawlers or tanks, it's just a lot that Charlie can do right now. I feel like she's in a pretty good place. The fact that we even see her entering that ban stage, I think that's something that we have to keep an eye on. Last month, Shade was a brawler in this region that popped out. Teams didn't know how to deal with it, so I'm curious to see if teams are prepared to kind of deal with these unorthodox picks, something like a Charlie, for example.
I don't know if they're a massive fan of it. I agree, it's a bit of an odd thing to kind of value so highly in the draft stage, though. I've definitely have been playing it more this week and kind of getting some good results with it. I think it's an underrated one for sure. Just not sure whether it's necessarily going to be considered across the other regions as a brawler that has that much weight to it. That's the problem for me.
Well, we're going to figure out tomorrow and next weekend as well if the other regions value Charlie just as much. I was talking about the long-range brawlers here in the previous set, Mameshi and the Piper, Kuro and the Bell. Now, this is a map where you really want to play those brawlers. Ark, do you feel like Piper already banned out? Unlucky? I know it's your favorite brawler here. Gene is going to come in once again. We talked about him before, just being so strong at the moment, especially Gem Grab, Bounty, and Knockout. Now, you feel like we're going to see some more Angela here, actually banned out as well. What long-range brawlers do we still have, Ark?
Long range definitely on the lesser side. I think there's still some throwing options for sure here. Tick often banned out in these scenarios, and we saw it being played out in the previous matchup as well. One that often doesn't get through the banning stage. We tend to see it just kind of eradicated. I think Juju as well in that mid can certainly have a fantastic time of things and has that water ability to have the slow. We do tend to see a little bit of a kind of Brock counter these days on this particular map, where that rocket fuel gadget can just break the bush that instantly eradicates that kind of additional range. There's only a 4-tile period in that mid as well to work with. So once it's gone, Juju not really the best thrower to have here, but certainly Sprout could be an option in the later stages of that drop. But certainly the Gus here pairing with a Melody potentially. I would love that idea here for Navi, something really, really aggressive to bring in and pair with that Gus. Not going to go for it though. Going to go for the RT. Certainly a fantastic brawler pick. I don't mind it at all. But the pairing, drop flying through. Carl, Nani as well. Good pairings for Rival for sure here.
I feel like Rival Esports have just had some easy clicks. I think Gene is a no-brainer to me. I think it's going to be one of the most played brawlers this month, considering how much knockout and bounties in the mix right now, where Gene stands. Nani just makes a lot of sense. It is a great counter into sharpshooters in general, so especially somebody like Gus, if you're playing the Nani really well, going to be a pretty solid matchup for you. And Carl is just somebody that's also going to be in that top 5, I think. It's just a brawler that's so dependable on so many different maps. You got options, you got different builds. I think Flying Hook makes a lot of sense in something like Bounty. Grabbing Gray as a 6th pick, though, I mean, can't complain. This is a brawler that sometimes enters the ban stage here.
Really like the Gray here. I think it's a fantastic brawler, and one that you kind of want to have in the back pocket to the very end of the draft to kind of see the big picture. Can evade the Carl. I think that's a really, really good quality for it, as well as the Peep potentially if you really have to with the portals, and also to get the RT forwards as well, to get the Gus forwards. It's a very aggressive brawler pick to have. The hypercharges we know as well, being able to place multiple of those on the map. It's going to be very tough when you're kind of on those back lines, when you're pushed up against the wall and you've got all the stars. That instant turnaround of which Gray can bring to the table here is going to be fantastic. Seeing the Flying Hook there for the blue star. Now again, I think the heat ejector is a better gadget in the current meta, so it's kind of interesting to see that Rival Esports are really valuing that blue star potential as that first thing to have as a result of that gadget, because honestly, heat ejector, it's so strong. I think it's in need of a nerf even.
Does so much damage. I see your point there, but Bounty might be my one exception where that Flying Hook can grab you a blue star, and we know how important that can be in this game mode, so I think it's still fine. I mean, either way you want to spin it, I don't really have any complaints. That Nani Peep barely missing Kuru will round out, hit it choppy, bring him down to about 3,000 HP, and nonetheless, Navi's still holding strong. They've got this indestructible wall working for them. They've pushed Rival back to their spawn side. Rival have the lead, but now they're battling a clock and 3 enemy brawlers.
Ooh, down goes Terry. A nice Flying Hook away there from the Pishu. But certainly for Navi here as well, now in a commanding position, they can kind of sit back a little bit. I like the piloting there as well on the Peep by Meshi. And if you can get another one in the back pocket and then bring that in, cause a little bit of ruckus there on the side of Rival Esports, but they are still struggling just a little bit to earn that utility. Now Terry has the magic hand. That's going to go somewhat of a little bit of a way, but again with the TP for Gray and the RTs, the prime brawler that you don't want to connect with, it's going to be tough. He kind of needs to go for Kuru, who's also got a shield, so this amount of utility for Navi is going to be going a long way into deterring what could happen on the side of Rival Esports here realistically.
Kuru gets away with one on that right-hand side. Naipishu just out of reach, and so Kuru will survive. Ryohi going for a gadget, breaks this open. And now Naipishu just waiting. 20 on the clock. Rival Esports really need to respond. They have the blue star. One kill could be enough of a difference. Full house of utility for Navi, though, on the defensive end. Terry, pull available, goes for it. The long range connects. A choppy falls. A teleport through, though. Ryohi going for gold and can't quite stretch it. Magnificent play there as Rival execute a phenomenal shot clock.
Body blocking was unreal there towards the end. The fantastic turnaround of which it was. Wouldn't have been anything at all if not for those key moments to retain those stars, because the low HP was certainly looming there. Crazy stuff and a fantastic resolve there from Rival Esports to get a game on the board. In just the nick of time, I had my money there on Navi really holding their own. It was a really calculated approach and one that paid off.
They had all 3 supers. They had bought just enough time to kind of walk it back naturally. I didn't feel like they were juggling anything too much or doing anything crazy. Maybe they backed up just a little too soon, but honestly, the Rival mechanics really came through in those final moments. Another Nani Peep. Now looking for Rio. He connects with him, 1,500 HP, and he can just back away. This indestructible wall will keep him up. Carl can't quite throw through. Rio, he kind of getting a little aggressive there. I'd like to see him heal up a little bit and then get back in the action.
Good taps now. Oh, and a TP in as well, and just the nick of time. Capitalizing there on the low HP, couldn't quite seal the deal on the Carl, but certainly a very good play there on the side of Navi from Ryohei. TP now is in a very aggressive spot as well for potential later. I'm loving these walking canes that Ryohei's hitting. I mean, he's not trying to bring a brawler through to try to take them down, just simply just eradicate the bush. It's really strategic, really well connected all the time that he's being able to do so. Kuru now as well has got that shielding on the right hand side and might choose to wait for Ryohei to have again every single time he's connecting this utility and might use it now to get back out. He does just there. Close call there for Navi.
Oh, now Kuru grabs one of his own. That gadget's just rattling the rival side. I mean, Ryohei just nailing walking cane after walking cane. The mechanics are coming through, getting that little extra bit of chip damage. Oh, and he nearly made magic happen against Terry. A big-time peep going through, though. A choppy low HP down to 1800. Pressure being applied. Naipishu working the left-hand in, and more of just a threat than anything. They land the long-range shot, and now have an opportunity to try and take this. Only one star separating.
Really key moment here now. Shappy has got that for defense, though. Flying hook there from Naipishu coming in, as now the gadget connects down to Terry, lowering him down as well. And there's a great connection from Kuru, keeping Navi ahead in this scenario with 3 stars differential. And Ryohei comes in for tap, tap, tap to seal it at the end. Convincing stuff from Navi. A really nice end to that game. And one set now that's going to be going all the way to a 3rd game to decide it.
I am loving what Gray is doing on this map right now. So many good tags, and even in a moment where he is about to go down, they land the gene pull. Some magical about Gray is he can just get out of harm's way with just a little bit of a TP. Love it overall. Ryohei playing a fantastic set right now.
Chappy getting aggressive here on this left-hand side, but only really connecting the one onto Terry, but that's, again, amplified shots is enough to push him back. That additional damage is not something that he wants to concede here. Missed walking cane from Ryohei, a bit of a rarity, but 2 that have been missed so far in this game. So some nerfs potentially here for Navi, creeping forwards. They have got that first set. They can get this game. There'll be 2 sets ahead, and that might be just enough to really go on to seal things from there. Peep, just to break the wall, probably a mishap for me. It looks like the pin would say the same story, so definitely Rival Esports not looking the greatest, but a magic hand from Terry does seal it, traded out though by Ryohei.
That's a good recovery, but that's a tough thing to unsee. When I see my teammates shank a shot, I get a little bit nervous. It's in my head a little bit, but Rival recover. They still land the pull and will hold this blue star. They've been 3 for 3 for that because of Carl. That's going to give him an advantage every single game.
Yeah, you can't waste that utility. Those peeps have got to be out piloting. If you'd missed upon like a good drive, then I can understand that, but hitting the wall immediately is not what you want to see. As now the shield comes in, Terry gets the pull. Good defensive work here as well from both sides, but so far Rival Esports on their feet. 5 stars, but most importantly, the blue stars staying with them. Ryohei has got the TP yet again though. Hypercharge potential here for Terry. If he can get super as well to combine with it, that could be a good thing or potentially even a bad thing. As we've seen time and time again, the Gene Hypercharge doesn't always pay off.
Bloodshed on both sides, and now 15 on the clock. Hypercharge for Terry, and has a super in his back pocket. They have the blue star. Navi are the ones that need to aggress. Left-hand side, TP. Super pop for Kuru. Now Ryohei will drop a hypercharge. The pull goes through. Ryohei falls. Star player, but a blue star going Navi's way. They need to find a quick kill, and Rival will hold on for dear life. Now we've got a tie ball game here. Set number 2 going towards Rival.
I'm with you, Terry. A sigh of relief there. A big one. Because again, being 2 sets down would not have been an option for me for Rival there. So certainly a well-fought set that has now brought up things all tied up, and very, very tense one there, Sonny.
They did manage to even out the score, surprisingly or not. I feel like in Bounty especially, it's just so important to play passively when you are in the lead. And they had the flying hook here instead of the heat ejector, a discussion that you two kicked off at the start of coming into this set as well. I feel like, yeah, the flying hook just really made it for them. They stacked up the blue star, and with that they had the lead, played passively. In the second round, they overextended a tiny bit. The Carl went way too aggressive. The Gene tried to protect him and fell in the end and gave the lead over to the other side. So I really just feel like as soon as they managed to play passively, to charge their ult, to let the opponents come to them, they did manage to win with that comp. So great draft from them, and also just well played.
great mechanics overall. I mean, you see Mameshi there with a 3-piece, 217 DPS. Part of that due to just the damage output that Peep has, always having control of the map. Obviously, he had a little bit of a blunder there. I'm assuming that's what it was, just like you are based on that pin. Honestly, good plays from both sides. I mean, Ryohei was certainly something to watch in that game number 2 between all the walking canes he was connecting with. It just seemed like he was unconscious there. He could not miss.
Yeah, I mean, for me, you know, there's not really any kind of strat which involves breaking that right wall, and definitely, I mean, good to see that they were able to shake off the blunder, because as you said, not anything to do when that gets inside your head, stays with you, you gotta brush those things off, and a very, very important game there for Rival to win.
And they really did brush it off. Their mental is as high as ever, and now they do have the momentum. Coming into set number 3 here, we're gonna have Gemfort, and it could be that Rival takes this momentum and turns it into another set win.
Definitely don't think you can rule it out. I mean, Rival were a team coming into this when they had their original 3 roster members. I think were arguably one of, if not the best in practices leading up to this for the past few weeks or so. And obviously, things change up a little bit. For me, Na'Vi are a team that I have a little bit higher expectations for just because they've been a smidge more consistent. But Rival Esports, especially the last couple months, have been really solid. And like we saw in that graphic earlier, our daily showed how many close calls they've had. A lot of those in the monthly qualifiers, but those were all against really big teams. And Na'Vi, I think, just a step below those teams. So Rival's certainly in the equation here to try and win this.
Heading into draft number 3 here, Janet was the most picked brawler here across all regions on this map. So of course, she's gonna be banned out here by the team that doesn't have first pick. We see a lot of tanks banned out from the side of Na'Vi. I feel like they just want to go with a bit more squishy brawlers. Maybe they want to just head into mid straight away and protect that fort in mid. But yeah, what options do we still have for gem carriers here, if not the Gene arc?
I mean, I've always liked Jesse on this particular map. It's just not the right meta for it anymore, really. Chester can be a first pick, not too convinced it's a first pick worthy brawler, but kind of glad to see the Buster. We kind of need to touch on that a little bit here today, because Buster's now really catapulted into the meta now. Especially with the Hypercharge edition, that particular brawler now is definitely a very scary one. Hank ban as well. I mean, a brawler that I think is safe to say has fallen off. It's still viable, but you know, I think that was a very, very worthy nerf that was needed. Charlie first pick. I'm still not overly convinced we're going to see that happening across the other regions, but hey, I mean, it's all on the table now. And Ash to follow up as well. You know, that's the kind of brawler that I'm expecting to see, having those lurking moments on the lane sides. Maybe the Chester there is a bit of a sort of countermeasure for Na'Vi, as it's obviously a very, very good tank counter, has that additional stun as well, depending upon what you kind of pick out the sort of the box there. But for Na'Vi, certainly some things to think about here. They do need to have a bit more of a controlling mid idea here for sure. Carl going to come in. Again, can't really quarrel with Carl at the moment in the sort of current state of things. Going to be quite a good thing to have on the lane side. Again, this is where I would say that his objective would have a big, big role, because obviously with that gadget, you can just kind of clear up so much space. And if you're lingering in that fire, you're basically going to be going down for the majority of brawlers.
General Brawlers, Meeple, and Ollie on my mind right now. I think Charlie, Ash, Chester, Carl, honestly, this is looking like a very stereotypical draft that I've seen in East Asia and a lot of these scrims. I think Chester has been kind of a way to deal with these tanks, and also Charlie in general. I mean, I'm going to keep saying it, but this is a sneaky pick, I think, across the board, especially for this region. It was one of the most common played brawlers in Na'Vi scrims, Rival Esports picking it up here, and believe it or not, Ark, I think Hank was the one that I noted the most times, at least leading into this week, post-monthly qualifiers for this Na'Vi side. So I think Hank's somebody that is a brawler that a lot of these teams are kind of back and forth on. I know there's some players out there that love him. I think there's some that obviously don't feel that way. I think it depends on the map. He's certainly not as strong as he was last month, but a brawler that I do think sits at the top right now is Ollie. I love where he's at in the game still. I think very powerful. The hypnosis, very solid. Daryl one. That does surprise me. I'm just not used to seeing the guy on Gemfort.
Yeah, I mean, in this region, though, I would say it's a brawler which they play exceptionally well. And I think it's kind of one that's being slept on a little bit by maybe some of the other regions. Kind of surprised to see Ollie left so late, actually, as well. I think that, you know, that's the brawler which is going to be just doing so well currently as well. Did get a little bit of a nerf for his charge rate down from, you know, 5 to 6, but nonetheless, I still feel like he's going to be very worthy in the draft stages. Kind of interesting to see. There's that early heat ejector there from Kuru. Really just deter that mid quite quickly, as Terry finds himself as well in the mid. Ryu going super aggressive, gets the hypnosis there as well, but the cocoon there of Charlie will bring Mameshi back into play. Keeps that aggression on, gives Rival Esports the control.
I like that they have Ollie and Coral on this left-hand Navi side because with the Spiderlings, with Ash's Rats, there's so many spawners down this map. So the fact that they have multiple options to pierce through things too, I think is really nice. Naipishu popping off left hand in. It's going to be a dive forward, an immediate cocoon there. This is what Charlie can do. Immediately eliminates any chance of a Hypnosis going down, and now it's back to rolling up the map for Naipishu. Kuru has to drop a super. He will survive, has these 3 gyms. This is kind of a tricky situation. You don't often see Carl be that gym carrier.
Yeah, it's because Chappie's got to basically mirror Terry, isn't he? He's the best counter to that the Ash pick, and it's kind of put things in a bit of an odd position here for Navi that are forcing then the Carl into mid, and I don't think that was the play really, it was the plan, but nonetheless that's what it is. Let's see if they can continue to hold these gems, as obviously with Kuru having them, definitely is an aggressive brawler of which he wants to be. Not ideal. If they go down on a state of an aggressive play or like an overly zealous play, then Navi are going to be kicking themselves.
Kuru with the hypercharge, Naipishu rolling forward, and a nice takedown there from Kuru. They're holding down this middle area, which is so important, and there is that Chester hypercharge. It can do a ton of damage, grabs Terry, and now they've got 7 gyms on their side. They pick these back up, so basically even, but by the time this gym spawns, we're gonna have a tie game.
That zoning potential there as well, that he ejected is forcing Naipishu there to that top left-hand side. They still couldn't find him, allowing Ryohi to go the aggressive on that top right-hand side, getting tons of value, getting the gems as well, dashing away, 7 in his pocket, but it's not going to matter. Kuru there with the pickaxe shielding, going in, getting them for himself. That's 12 here as well, and that nice evasion there as well. And the cocoon Ramesh going to be burning down as well, buying his time there, just getting healing back up. But when he comes back out of it, there's only 4 seconds on the clock for the push. Going in now, and the push getting some good damage as well. But Kuru has the hypercharge. The knockback is not going to matter. That is going to be a game going the way of Navi. Of all things, the Carl mid paid off.
It's just so interesting. I feel like this region right now and this meta in general, especially for Gym 4, really interesting mids going down. I mean, Sunny was just talking about it off camera, but we've had Gene, for example, such a staple of this region, shows up so frequently, and they don't even dare pick it. We have Charlie, we have Carl, we have Ash, we have Daryl. Such an interesting region, and certainly interesting meta right now. Immediately, 1 brawler goes down for Rival Esports, 85 HP. All that bolsters Mameshi, and he's gonna have to take to this right-hand side and just recover for a second. This is a great start for Navi.
Yeah, when Sunny posed the question going into the draft as to what would be a good mid, I don't think anyone watching was thinking, yeah, Carl, let's go with Carl. That's a fantastic option to have here. But hey, I mean, Navi are adapting, and it's kind of working, and that's kind of what it's all about, really. Sometimes the plan doesn't necessarily go, you know, just very, very smoothly, but you do have to adapt. And already a hypercharge for Kurus has been getting a lot of value so far, but it's Naipishu that is a concern with that knockback. Obviously, it can really push Kuru into a difficult position going in now as well. And the accuracy of Naipishu so far today has been really, really on point, but not able to get anything off that as Ryohi going on the aggressive, forced into a cocoon there by Mameshi as well. Hypercharge by Chappie. Look how quickly it forces Rival Esports back. It's so assertive. That hypercharge for Chester really has done him wonders.
The poison pushes them back, and then they drop a lingering little slow in that middle, and it's just, they can't step anywhere. It's zoning, it's damage, it's everything you could want in a hypercharge. But Terry trying to make something happen. Hypnosis goes down, so he's rendered useless. Naipishu caught up in it as well. A Choppy there to assist the teammate. Ryohi will fall, but it's 2 versus 1, and a cocoon to try and preserve themselves, but just not enough.
I think that even Mameshi knew that there was no escape from the inevitable. Was there? Terry on the left-hand side, pushing his way forwards into the Chester. Not really going to ever fare too well for yourselves. They got the Hypnosis of Ryohi there as well as a good countermeasure. They push you going in, but look at how the troops get behind this for the defense. The body blocking on point there for Navi, and it's going to be a set going their way. Great stuff in gem grab, and again with a very, very unlikely candidate as a gem carrier.
He's just showing up everywhere right now. Carl as a gym carrier certainly wasn't necessarily at the top of my list, but I think on paper made a lot of sense into the matchups we were seeing. We saw Ash and Charlie be the 2-3 turn, and because Carl can kind of pierce through that, it's not a bad shout. I think the Daryl on paper made a lot of sense for this rival roster because they can roll up, has some particularly good matchups. I don't think that's necessarily an ideal map for him, but I at least saw the vision. I think it was a good attempt at a rival, but to your point, Ark, a great adaptation there with Carl.
Yeah, Ark, I mean, silly Sonny, it's not like we're stuck in 2022, right? Who would pick a Gene on Gem 4? What is a great gem carrier here? Of course it's Carl.
I wouldn't be too hard on yourself. It's just a really interesting meta right now. Like I said, Hank was the brawler that I noted that Navi played the most on that map leading into this week. So it's all over the place right now. I mean, Charlie, Daryl showing up in Gym 4. Meanwhile, the brawlers of old, the Maxes, the Jeans of the world, who we've seen a lot today, granted. I think you were saying this earlier. Is this Jeans' first set we haven't really seen at all? No name called?
We have seen 6 sets so far. He has been picked up in 4 of those. Safe zone, he wasn't featured either. So, next map, by the way, knockouts, it's going to be a Gene again, Ark.
Yeah, I mean, Gene Max combo, I mean, that is 2 brawlers which really define East Asia over the years. If you had to kind of pick, you know, one over the history of Brawl Esports, it's going to be one of those 2 that you're going to pick realistically here for me. But, you know, I think, you know, real credit there to Navi to adapt. I think the Ollie combo as well was where we saw just like that amount of DPS really come forwards in those stats really, because it just allowed that alignment for Curie to be able to get the follow-up there as well. So a great synergy. And again, very surprised to see Ollie left, you know, so late in the draft, and you know, there was the opportunity to kind of counter the idea, which wasn't really kind of taken to a better place for me by Rival Esports there, and that might be one of the reasons why, because Ollie is ban worthy in that map for sure.
We've seen a lot of Carl today as well. I do feel like he's very strong because of the heat ejector, as we talked about before as well. I just really feel like you can counter him so easily. If you just pick up something that can knock or stun him out of his ult, for example, the Ollie, usually works out. It didn't this time around. Gemford was just all in the name of that. Carl Core did a phenomenal job. Now we're heading over to a bit of a more open map here. I do not expect a Carl here, at least not with the flying hook here, if then with the heat ejector just to shut down one of those 2 lanes on the side. Once again, we do have a Grom ban in this one, which is, I feel like, the first time we've seen Grom shown up in a draft today at all.
Ollie definitely at the top of my list still, though, and Navi really have been suspect to be taking tanks, especially scrims leading up to this. Ollie, Buster, Hank, Daryl, all in the mix, and now that I've seen Ollie come out, we saw last time them use Daryl as that adjustment into this brawler as one of the, and also Carl as well, but I think Daryl is something you have to keep in mind, especially for this Rival Esports side now. Carl's still in the mix. I think Gus has been a popular brawler in this region, is kind of that mid, that point guard, if you will, to give a little assistance, some long range all around. But like you mentioned earlier, Art, no complaints here, especially in this game mode. I think Buster is a great pick.
Really is. I'm much happier now to have seen it kind of escape through, and again, it's especially on knockout, you know, it kind of encourages that passive play, which is just going to feed into his shielding and that utility over time. So for Navi, they've got to kind of go in with something even more aggressive now in this drafting stage. Certainly, no doubt, they're off to a very, very good start. But and Daryl as well. This is like the passive approach that's just going to be better over time. So for Rival Esports, I'm really liking their approach, but they've got to be prepared for a very, very aggressive stance here from Navi.
I feel like Rival at this point, that last pick, something like a Byron might be nice, just to kind of give them that little extra support and also the decent range, because right now they're going to be clustered together. They're going to have to wait it out. I think this is a waiting game for Rival Esports side, so I'm curious if Navi press the agenda. They try and get something a little more aggressive, something that wants to take control early. Lou going to be their pick. Now, not traditionally a knockout brawler, but when you see the matchups on the other end, you see Buster and Daryl. It's one of the better tank counters in the game. I think there's a lot of debates going on of what the quote-unquote best tank counter right now is. Lou's in that equation. I think B has been in that equation in general, I think, for a lot of pros. But we haven't seen her at all today, so kind of curious to see how that goes. Juju, thrower of choice here. Definitely squishier into the other side, but I think if they go for that slowing start power, it could be pretty nasty into Daryl and Buster.
Yeah, Juju here is going to work out fantastically well, really. The amount of bush that is actually on this map is quite crazy. You can't really go with a wall break option to eradicate some of that and diminish her effectiveness. So I quite like it here from Navi. But, you know, the Lou is certainly an answer for the Daryl. I can understand that. But
this is just warm up, right?
I'm definitely preferring what I'm seeing from Rival so far. Max as well, yeah. I mean, they banned the Gene. That would have been, for me, the best brawler to have as a combo for this kind of idea. But the Max is kind of like a second best, really. You know, if you're able to chip away gradually, get that additional speed, and then, you know, you kind of prey in the idea of Navi pushing you. If you've suddenly got that speed, you're able to communicate it effectively across to everyone else, have the Buster close the range, pop the gadget there as well, just suck everyone in. It's going to be like a really, really swift team wipe if they get that synergy right with this kind of comp. So very much liking this from Rival. I think Navi have got a bit of a task on their hands. Gonna have to really close the gap with the control of the Juju and the hypnosis there of the Ollie. look at this. Terry going to be getting the paid goods here. He has to jump away. Might get a bit of splash. No, the Juju not able to close the gap there. So a fantastic start for Rival as the coin flip between left and right lanes pays off early.
And a lot of times it's going to be left for blue, red right. That's just how it traditionally goes, because you got a little bit more space off the rip. You can see that patch of grass. There's not as much wall. So if you go to that right-hand end, you run a narrow lane and a one-way ticket to the other side. And Rival just playing the mind games early. I love this, too, because now they've got Daryl, Buster, and Max all with Super's utility. They're rolling in an easy frag onto a Choppy here. And Rio, he left all alone. I think he sees the writing on the wall. And a lot of times when you see pros in this situation, they're just trying not to feed Super. That's why I think Mameshi, the one without Super, is going to get so aggressive. It's not as easy for him to charge it up, say, to somebody like a Buster or a Daryl.
Oh, look at this. It's just been one round. You've got hypercharge there from the push you and the Buster as well, which now will completely encapsulate every side as a protective measure. So, great stun though from the Lou onto the push now in a tough spot. Can't roll himself away. Shielding from Terry's not enough either as the shots from Juju just shoot over the top. Now it's a 2 versus 2, and that was not the plan.
I thought that they might survive that, which would have been absolutely nuts. So if this ended up being a 3v2, a very different situation. And once again, little gamble left or right, and this time Navi goes right side with Rival, leads to a clash and a brawler